I brought something, decorating something for my house. Look what I have. Isn't it beautiful? And in looking around my house, I have some that are made out of paper. Really cool. Made out of paper. Got it as a gift. I've got some that are made out of wood. And then I have some jewelry. So it's made out of different colors. Silver, bronze. And it's really, really neat. It's a great reminder. A great reminder of what? Of Jesus, right? You see, when we think about these, or when we wear them, we think of hope, we think of Jesus, we think of ways to share who we are as Christians. Maybe somebody will ask us about it. We can say, oh, yes, Jesus in my life is a great thing. But if you back up a few thousand years, and you carry something like this around, or you wear something like that around, you might get some pretty strange looks from people. Because it meant something a lot different thousands of years ago. It meant suffering. So people might look at you and wonder why you would wear something that meant suffering. Today, it means hope. It means something different to us because we know that the one person who went through all of that suffering did that for us. And now we have hope. We have hope in life, eternal life, with God and His Son Jesus. So I wanted to share a little bit with you from Mark chapter 8. I just love the stories about Peter. Hot-headed Peter does something good, one step forward, two steps back. Who can relate to that? So in chapter 8, let's start with verse 27. Peter declares that Jesus is the Messiah. Jesus and his disciples went on to the villages around Caesarea Philippi. On the way, he asked them, "Who do people say I am?" They replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others one of the prophets." "But what about you?" he asked. "Who do you say I am?" Peter answered, "You are the Messiah." Jesus warned them not to tell anyone about it. Good answer, Peter. And then Jesus predicts his death. He spoke, starting in verse 32, he spoke plainly about this, and Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But then when Jesus turned and looked at his disciples, he rebuked Peter. "Get behind me, Satan," he said. "You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns." The way of the cross, verse 34 through 36. And he called the crowd to him among his disciples and said, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life for me and for the gospel will save it. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul?" So when I think about this plain cross, I think about the suffering that Jesus did for me, for all of us, to give us hope. I can hardly take it in, hardly understand, but I can let it continue to give me hope, to continue my journey, to be closer to God, to do what God wants you to do. Will you pray with me? God, we try to come to you and praise you and worship you, and we mix it all up with this stuff, this world. Help us to see what is your will. Help us to see what this world wants. And help us to be who you choose, who you made us, so that we can choose to be your servant, and in doing so, serve others. It's in Jesus' name we pray.
Thank you, Jeff. We're sort of tag teaming this because I'm going to visit those same passages here from the 8th chapter of the Gospel of Mark. Jesus and his disciples went on to the villages around Caesarea Philippi. On the way, he asked them, "Who do people say I am?" And they replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others one of the prophets." "But what about you?" he asked. "Who do you say I am?" And Peter answered, "You are the Christ, the Messiah." And Jesus warned them not to tell anyone about him. He then began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, chief priests, and teachers of the law, and that he must be killed, and after 3 days rise again. He spoke plainly about this, and Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But when Jesus turned and looked at his disciples, he rebuked Peter. "Get behind me, Satan," he said. "You do not have in mind the things of God, but the things of men." And then he called the crowd to him along with his disciples and said, "If anyone would come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me and for the gospel will save it. What good is it for a man to gain the whole world yet forfeit his soul? Or what can a man give in exchange for his soul? If anyone is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will be ashamed of him when he comes in his Father's glory with the holy angels." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. I've got a really easy question to start with for you today, and I want somebody to give me an answer. What are the 3 rules of real estate? Location, location, location. Yes, the 3 rules of real estate. Absolutely. You can build a $1 million house and build it right up against a interstate with traffic flying all around it, and suddenly the value of that house is cut at least in half. Our location. Not a good place to build a house. Build a house by a lake, nice and peaceful and quiet. I've got a location, Debbie and I had one neighbor that said, "Why would anybody want to build a house way back in there? What are you going to do if it snows?" "I'll wait for it to melt." It's not a problem. Meanwhile, I enjoy the trees and the wildlife and the lake, the sunshine, peace, quiet. It's lovely. Location, location, location. That applies to this passage of Mark in many ways. In Mark's gospel, there are 16 chapters. This is chapter 8. This is dead center in Mark's gospel. Location, location, location. And it's the hinge point in Mark's version of the gospel story, where Jesus is no longer going to be in teaching ministry and healing things around the Sea of Galilee area. But now his eyes are set on Jerusalem. Its real home in its life. And so everything from this point on is aimed at Jerusalem. Mark wants us to understand this so much that he blocks this part of the journey from Caesarea Philippi to Jerusalem with these nice bookends, if you will, of healing of blind people. It's the passage right before this. This blind guy comes to Jesus, and Jesus heals him of the blindness. He says, "Can you see now?" And the guy says, "Well, I can make out people, but I can't see clearly." And so Jesus heals him more. And then he says, "Now I can see." At the end of this journey, in a few weeks, we come up to the story of Bartimaeus and Jericho, another blind, who sees who this Jesus is. From the darkness, he sees who he is. And that, I think Mark is using sort of a literary device here for us to realize that we're those blind people that think we see, but then we have an encounter with Jesus through, whether it's through his word, through the stories, through his the Spirit touching our hearts, and we begin to see the reason for Jesus coming into the world. But then again, we see it, but it's not quite clear to us. And so we go back to Jesus and, well, I can see, but not really clear enough. There's more. A better vision, a more full vision, if you but journey with Jesus and finish the story. Location, location, location. Mark's gospel. Location, location, location matters again to the geographically to this story as well. Jesus is up north of the Sea of Galilee. He's up in Gentile territory. He was in, remember last week when we went over to Tyre and Sidon, and he meets this lady, and he heals her daughter. And then he heals another guy that can't speak because clearly because he's deaf. These people are Gentiles. They're out of the family of the Jewish people, and yet Jesus realizes that his mission is to these people as well. Well, there's another big feeding story in here that gets skipped over. Why? Well, because if I'd have been following the gospel readings every week through August, you would have been so tired of hearing about feeding stories because they spend like 4 weeks on the bread discourse out of John and the healing of the feeding of the 5,000. And you're going, oh, really? Another feeding story? Well, here it is. We skipped this one, but it's in there. He feed 4,000. Somewhere up in there, and with same deal with bread and fish. And the point is, these people are probably not Jews, but Gentiles. And Jesus is providing for them as well, meeting their needs. And so that brings us into this story of Jesus moving on up into this area around Caesarea Philippi. Well, what's Caesarea Philippi? It's this area up in north of the Sea of Galilee that where this city was built by Philip. He was one of the sons of Herod the Great. And they sort of split up the territories amongst his family when Herod the Great died. And Philip had what a tetrarch. That means, and he builds this city, Caesarea Philippi, names it after 2 people, Caesar and himself, to the glory of Caesar. It's a place of empire worship to to Caesar. It's also considered a place where the Greek god Pan came into existence. It's on the crossroads of the major trade routes, and the way of the king runs there. And it's at the foot of Mount Hermon, this Caesarea Philippi. It's like the Washington, D.C. of first century Middle East. It's the seat of power, commerce, the world. Purposely built to be there. And it's in this place, this location, that Jesus asked his disciples, what's the buzz? What are people saying about me? What do you hear? Who do they think I am? That's the first question. Who do they say I am? And they respond, hey, some say you're one of the prophets, some say you're Elijah. Or if you know your Old Testament, Elijah is supposed to come back before the Messiah. If this is it. Jesus said, all right then. Answer the first question. Good. Then he asked the next one. Well, what about you? Who do you say? That's when Peter has this moment of inspiration. Where you're him. You're the Messiah. You're the Christ. You're the one. And the first thing that Jesus says, according to Mark, is, well, you're right, but don't tell them. You ever think about that? Why did Jesus tell those disciples, don't tell them? You know why? I think because they're still blind. They don't understand clearly who he is. And Jesus says, you go and start telling who you think I am. You're just screwed. In fact, he goes on to tell immediately why. Tell us we're going to Jerusalem. I'll be arrested. I'll be executed. But I'll rise on the third day. And that's when Peter, who just had this moment of glory, sticks his foot in his mouth and said, takes Jesus aside, because he didn't want to embarrass him among all the other people. Takes Jesus aside. It just seems to farm him. He says, now, Jesus, what? Man, we've been hanging with you for 3 years now. This is just getting going good. What's this talk about? That's not the way this works out. You're the Messiah. That means you're going to take over. Israel's going to come back into power. It'd be wonderful. You're it, and we're along for the ride. Jesus looks at him, looks at his disciples, and they're all, and Jesus, get behind me, Satan. Satan has been working against Jesus from the moment of his death. Mark's gospel. Been working there against him in every corner, and here he sees it in his own top dog man. This knowledge of the world, the way things ought to be, comes rushing forth out of Peter's mouth. Jesus, this isn't the way it is. Right? And again, Jesus asked. In fact, in the next few chapters in Mark's Gospel, Jesus tells them 3 times what's going to happen. Trying to get them to understand that it's not how the world plays out in this. It's how the divine powers that be, God, through Christ, how it plays out. It's good for us all. See, Peter said, but Jesus, why is back to this location thing. Jesus, why don't we just, you could just slide back down into the Galilee area here again. People love you around here. We got a good thing going. This drop this talk about Jerusalem. Let's just hang out here. We can do that. And as I said, in Mark's Gospel, this is that point where Jesus says, we go to Jerusalem. It's really, we get to the point where in Mark's Gospel, he's brought us along and Jesus is showing us how to live. How he says, I'm going to show you how to die. Back to the question. You see that question that Jesus asks his disciples, that who do you say I am? That applies for us as well. To every person, for all time, from that moment on, that includes us. We face that very question in our life. Jesus, who you say I am? Who is Jesus to you? Is he Lord of all? Or is he Lord of all? Who is Jesus to you? And then, of course, that follows with the next question, which is kind of going full flow here. We're back to, and if we were to ask, who would people say that you are? That you are. Would they see it in you? That you believe in Christ? That you are a beloved child of God? Is the love of God, His grace, His mercy, His forgiveness apparent in how you live your life? Then he gets into that stuff about taking up your cross and following Him. You see, it's that location. It's really not that hard. It's fairly easy and it's very comfortable, like right now, to gather together to worship God, to sing our praises, to pray. This is like Galilee, if you will. But Jesus says, to his followers, you got to come and follow me. That means Jerusalem. But we don't always get the easy way. That we're challenged. And I think that challenge comes facing the powers that be, facing the pull of the world, life outside these doors, is where that challenge comes to us to take up that cross. It's in those moments where you may very well hear in circumstances around where you have the opportunity to be the very heart of and hands of God, you may have that moment where Christ whispers to your heart, who do you say I am? How will you respond in the moment? To hear that call upon your life. And now, Christ says, now's the time for you to realize that this is your cross to take up, to follow me. Who do you say I am? Hallelujah. Amen. I have, I think it's appropriate for this day of who we say Christ is. I have an affirmation of faith. I invite you to join me in these words. I invite you to stand and let's say